Rodney McLeod, who is a Brown safety and a backup safety at that, who's now been forced into a starting role, has 2 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. I saw the one out in Vegas, and then Myles Garrett blocks that field goal and returns it for a touchdown. So Rodney McLeod is the team leader, tied for the team lead in touchdowns with 2. Deshaun Watson has 2 total touchdowns in the past 3 weeks. It is historically bad team and offense. So just bad football. And the defense played pretty well outside of a couple plays on Sunday. So just really bad stuff. I don't know what to say. There is a guy, though, on ESPN. His name is Bill Barnwell, and I want to give him credit because he is the one that came up with these stats. But the Browns offense, out of 798 teams through 6 games since 2000 in red zone trips, they are tied for 784th. There have only been 14 teams worse than them out of 798. On offensive penalties, they are tied for 795th. Only 3 teams over the past 24 years have been worse than them. Yards to go on third down, 795th out of 798 teams. And on third down conversion rate, 797th. Second worst over the past 24 years. Bad. Real bad. Now, on Deshaun Watson, the Browns, and he is saying it's time for the Browns to give up on Deshaun Watson, much like many of us would agree, who is off to the worst start in modern league history. Since 2007, out of 566 passers, so 566 quarterbacks through 6 weeks, Watson ranks 558th, so only 8 players worse than him in average yards per dropback. And his first down rate is 566th, which is worst of all time since 2007. I can't say of all time, since 2007. So we're talking an historically bad offense with an historically bad quarterback and maybe an historically bad set of wide receivers and historically bad offensive line. By the way, did you know this is the highest paid offense in the National Football League? Pretty bad. Pretty, as Larry David would say, pretty bad. It's bad stuff. And once again, things you want to have on Sundays that you just can't have: a good quarterback and Chick-fil-A. And, so hopefully the Browns can play on a Monday night or a Thursday night here in the near future. So maybe we get
1 out of 2.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, let's move on to this week.
Well, can I? You didn't.
I'm sorry. Yeah, listen, I didn't give you the table. I'm sorry.
We go into a psychologist's office.
No, I'm sorry.
And the psychologist says, "Hey, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but tell me a little bit about why your life sucks." I almost feel like I'm being shafted.
I'm sorry. You have been a great listener on this podcast. I apologize for my selfishly.
I was the one that was boiling over with things to say.
You know
what? And you're like, and moving right along.
Here, hold on. All right. I'm going to move the mic away. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. So I think that, fans have now lowered their expectations and we're watching them with a completely different set of standards, right? Sure. But to watch the head coach and the players talk about how this team still has the best chance to win having Deshaun Watson. This is all just a big mass delusion for some reason. I mean, let's say you were a teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like a kid, the kid that's eating paste and has like 5 brain cells, parents comes in for parent-teacher conference, and you expect that the parent just kind of says,
by the way, those parents wouldn't show up for a conference.
But if they hypothetically, they come in, you don't expect them to say, we know he's going to be a rocket scientist if he would just be given the chance, right?
Yeah.
The parent's going to say, listen, Billy's dumb stupid, okay? And
you want to say that.
Yes.
You can't say that.
Right.
So are you saying Kevin Stefanski is the parent?
The parent would at least brass tacks him. We're not very good. We know that. We're humbled that those guys are better than us and whatever. But they're in this mass delusion where they're not going to change because they still believe they can do it with the people that are there right now.
Okay.
You could respond to that. I know.
Oh yeah, Joe, I see you just mentioned they traded Cooper. We led off the show with that today. So and then we went into some positive news before we got back to the negative. So
yeah, but thank you for bringing us right around to that, Joe.
But thank you, Joe. Yeah, we got something in return, at least for a guy that was checked out for sure. So
the mass delusion.
Okay, so in that scenario, teacher,
Billy
bad Billy, the student, and then the misguided parents.
Yes.
Who in the Browns organization is what person in that? So who's the teacher?
We are the teacher.
Okay, we're the fans.
We're the fans.
Okay.
We got to call them to the mat and say, listen.
Who's Billy? Is that Deshaun Watson?
It's the whole offense.
Okay.
Like we're not gonna just put on one dude.
Okay.
We're gonna give it all the offense as led by Deshaun Watson.
And who are the parents?
The parents are definitely.
Is it Stefanski? Is it Barry? Or is it the Haslams? Or is
I'm gonna put them all. Let's just say they're the husband.
Yes. Okay. So it's a
they're
marriage.
In front of us.
It's a failed marriage.
We're like, okay, we need to get ourselves, into some truth, so we can at least make the best of this season. And then we turn it over to the parents and say, how should we handle this?
Yeah.
And they respond like they do. Billy's just got so much potential. If he just be given what he needs to succeed.
Like Billy, and that I'm glad you used the word Billy, because one of my favorite movies of all time is Billy Madison.
Yes.
And you remember he goes back and like does first grade through 12th grade all over again. And then in a couple weeks, if Deshaun Watson somehow wins a game, we're going to be like, Billy passed the third grade. Oh, what a glorious day. Oh, man. So if he did it the Billy Madison way,
we just want the three parents that are sitting in front of us, to have some humility and say, my kid's just dumb, and I understand it. Let's get through this year.
Yeah, and your kid might be dumb, maybe because the parents are dumb.
Could be, right?
Yeah,
it's just the reality.
No one wants to. First of all, Deshaun Watson and the offense, these are grown-ass adults. So we can call them out to the carpet. We're not calling a hypothetical kid dumb. Maybe in this scenario we are. They don't exist. So yeah, that's a dumb kid. All right, we get it. He's eating glue. He's a crazy glue sniffer. He's eating boogers in class.
He's making a fart noise with his armpit.
Oh man, does Billy need a troop of morally flexible masseuses?
That would be really bad for Billy.
So, and let me just say too, people know I have given Billy as many chances as I can give. With all the off the field stuff, I was excited the Browns got Billy on their team. And now I am like, get Billy the hell out of here. By the way, Billy is Deshaun if you're just tuning in. But we all want Billy gone. We want him out of the class. We want him sent to juvie, whatever it might be. We want him gone. Maybe he assaults the teacher and he goes, you can't go to school here. You're expelled.
Didn't O'Doyle their car go off a cliff or something like that?
Yeah, O'Doyle, they slipped on the banana peel.
Yes,
at the end.
That's what happened.
Threw out the window. Yep. Yeah. So I do not wish ill will of anyone. I do not. Like injuries, Deshaun Watson, he might be a terrible human being. I don't want him to get hurt.
Ill will, splinters, hurt shoulders.
No, I'm talking like death. Like
anything up to include, not including death.
No, not like maybe if it's but it's such a frustrating thing because once again we always come back to this team. I love this team, but what is best for it? It might be best for this team to just have the shittiest year, get the number 1 or number 2 or number 3 or 4 pick, get the best player available, whether that's an offensive lineman, whether that's a quarterback, who knows. But it's like, you still have 2 more years, 2 more football seasons of this contract. So here's the hypothetical I was going to propose to you earlier. I saw this by some national person. I put it out on Facebook and Twitter, and I got some people loved it. Some people hated it. It was kind of right down the middle. But here's what I said. Myles Garrett's on a very team-friendly contract, maybe like $25 million over the next 3 years, right? Deshaun Watson, not on a very team-friendly contract. Every team in the league would beg to have Myles Garrett, right? And not so. Here was the question, and I can't remember his name, that someone had put out there. They said, would you trade Myles Garrett to Team X for, let's say, a 6th or 7th round draft pick? The caveat is, because you have to get something in return in a trade. The caveat is you have to take Deshaun Watson's contract with that in return. So you're giving us a late round pick that will probably turn into nothing, but you're giving us something back. In return, you get the best defensive player or the top 2 or 3 or 4 best defensive player in the league who has a very team-friendly deal for the next 3 years. But you also get Deshaun Watson's contract. Now, I haven't looked at the numbers. I don't know if that's even financially feasible for a team to bring in both of those contracts. But let's say the Browns are like, we'll eat the rest for the rest of this year or whatever. You take them off our hands, but you also get Myles Garrett. So
Myles Garrett,
what would you do?
So the only thing, I mean, yes, that would be a big give, but it also takes off of your ledger something that's going to always, you're going to feel this for the next 2 years. Yes. And the quicker we get rid of them, the better. Now, is you think Myles is completely healthy with that foot?
No.
Do you think it's a long-term thing?
I think he needs to rest and he'd be fine. So, at this point in the season, like everybody loves Myles.
But you don't think it's a long-term where
I don't think it, like, I think if you worry if it, like, he gets like a calf injury along with like an Achilles injury, that we don't want him tearing that Achilles because that puts next season in question then too. So it's like, I would rather at this point, you're 1-5. You're not going anywhere. I would sit him, and he's a competitor. He's going to want to play, but he's going after sack records too. He's got a image and a career and a legacy to create too. But it's also like, we're also wasting a year of, his prime, Denzel Ward's prime. It's like, it's just like, these guys, one, aren't cheap, and two, the NFL, a lot of people say not for long, and this is what the NFL stands for. The average career is like 3.5 years or something like that. Myles Garrett's in like year 7, 8. So, I mean, how many great years of Myles Garrett do you have left? Maybe 3, maybe 4. It's like, are we going to waste this year and 2 more years of Myles Garrett's prime years because we have a contract we can't trade, we can't get out of? So at some point, it's like, maybe you just play Jameis Winston. I don't know what the answer is. I think you should just play Winston and see what happens. I don't know. It might not be any better, but certainly can't get any worse. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want, I can see the logic in using Myles as bait, but I don't want to. I think he's the heart and soul of that team.
Yeah.
And I just can't see giving it up. I say we suck it up as a bad investment, see through the rest of it. If we get a chance for an out other than trading off, more assets, then we take it.
Yeah. And we'll see. I just don't know. I've also seen like them possibly saying, we'll trade our 1st round pick and Deshaun Watson for like a 5th round pick or something next year. It's like, well, then now you've given up 4 1st round picks. And so it's like, it's like, how they say, well, you keep digging your hole deeper. It's like, or beating a dead horse. It's like, it's the same analogy. It's just, whatever they do is not going to be good, and it's not going to be received well by the fans. So the best thing to do might be what Denver did with Russell Wilson, and just cut bait, eat the dead cap.
Yep.
And you might suck for a couple years, but it's like, I would love to see nothing more than Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb win a Super Bowl in Cleveland. That would be the greatest thing I can think of. But it's simply not going to happen with and Joel Bitonio, people like that. It's like, these guys have been long-time Cleveland Browns. David Njoku, it's like, these guys have been long-time Cleveland Browns. They have done well for the organization. They've been some of the best at their position, but and we've seen a couple successful years. We've seen very competent football out of the Cleveland Browns from 2018 to 2023. And then this season, all of a sudden, it's like the shit hit the fan. And that could be several years of not having good draft picks. That could be a quarterback that's just totally incompetent. That could be injuries on the offensive line. It could be a lot of things. But it's at the end of the day, it's like, it is what it is. And I think, like we said, we start to see maybe the fire sale coming, or we start to see the dominoes falling around this team, but something has to change. I would hate to see Stefanski get fired. I would hate to see Barry get fired, but this move might be the one that's like, okay, we need to wake the locker room up. And maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. Things can really not get much worse right now. I feel like we're kind of at rock bottom with the Browns. Having said that, Kevin Stefanski is really good against cat teams, and they play the Bengals this week. And a saving grace, Nick Chubb will be activated for the Cleveland Browns this week.
He might play a little bit, but he will be
active, and that might be the saving grace of this Cleveland Browns team, because
why does he play quarterback?
Does he play? Can he block, pass, and run the ball at the same time?
Sean just hands it off to him and flea flicker in true fashion.
There we go. I don't know. And I would love to see Jameis Winston, Nick Chubb out there, and maybe one of the young guys, Cedric Tillman, or somebody steps up at wide receiver. I don't know what it is, but again, the offense can't get much worse than it was. So it is
12-5, they can still go. I mean, come on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're right on track for 12-5. Can't
you got the 5 done?
It's on
5's out of the way.
That'd be a better record than last year, and our 11-6 last year. So
gonna hit a monstrous run. This is team optimism here today.
Yeah, there we go.